Most people are never taught how money actually works. They are taught how to work for money, how to chase money, how to worry about money, how to spend money before it even arrives, but almost nobody sits them down early in life and explains the quiet rules that determine who stays trapped and who slowly becomes free. And I think that is why so many good, hard-working people reach their 40s, 50s, or even 60s and feel confused, embarrassed, and angry when they look at their bank account. They did what they were told. They went to work. They paid their bills. They tried to be responsible. They bought the car that made sense at the time. They used the credit card because life got expensive. They told themselves they would start saving next month. And then next month became next year, and next year became 10 years. And suddenly, they are standing in the kitchen late at night, looking at a balance that does not match the amount of effort they have given to the world. Warren Buffett has spent his life teaching a very simple but uncomfortable idea. Wealth is not usually built by dramatic moves. It is built by understanding a few boring rules early enough and then living by them longer than most people can tolerate. The problem is that the poor are rarely taught those rules. Not because they are not smart enough, not because they do not work hard enough, but because the system around them benefits when they stay reactive, emotional, rushed, and dependent. So today, I want to walk through 5 money secrets that poor people are almost never taught, but that quietly shape every wealthy person's financial life. And the first secret is this: income is not wealth. This may sound obvious, but it is one of the most expensive lessons a person can learn late. Most people are trained to measure their financial progress by how much money comes in. They say, "I make more now than I used to, so I must be doing better." But Buffett would remind you that what matters is not what flows through your hands. What matters is what stays, what grows, and what begins working without you. There is a man I'll call Michael. Michael got a promotion at 34. His salary jumped from $48,000 a year to almost $75,000. For the first few months, he felt rich. He upgraded his apartment because he was tired of living somewhere small. He financed a newer car because he told himself he deserved reliability. He started ordering food more often because he was working longer hours. He bought better clothes because his new position required looking professional. And every single choice seemed reasonable on its own. Nothing looked crazy. Nothing looked irresponsible. But 1 year later, Michael had a higher income and the exact same stress. Actually, he had more stress because now the life he had built required that higher income just to survive. This is the trap. Poor and middle-class people are often taught that more income is the solution. Wealthy people are taught that income is only useful if it becomes ownership. If every dollar that enters your life immediately leaves your life, then your income is just passing through you like water through open fingers. You may feel busy. You may look successful. You may even impress people who know less than you do. But financially, you are still standing in the same place. The wealthy ask a different question. They do not only ask, "How much did I earn?" They ask, "How much did I keep? How much did I invest? How much of this dollar will still be alive 5 years from now?" That question changes everything. Because when you see money as something that can either disappear or become a worker, you stop treating your paycheck like permission to upgrade your lifestyle. You start treating it like raw material. Buffett has often explained that the goal is not to look rich. The goal is to own things that produce value. A poor person may get a raise and buy a bigger monthly payment. A wealthy person gets a raise and buys more ownership, more shares, more productive assets, more freedom. The difference is almost invisible at first. After 1 month, the spender looks better. After 1 year, the difference is small. After 20 years, the two people are living in completely different worlds. The second secret the poor are rarely taught is that debt is not just money you owe. Debt is a claim on your future energy. This is one of the most important ideas in personal finance, and it is also one of the most ignored. When people take on debt, they usually think in monthly payments. They ask, "Can I afford $329 a month?" Or, "Can I handle this minimum payment?" But the wealthy think differently. They ask, "How much of my future life am I selling to own this thing today?" That is a much heavier question. Because debt does not just take money. It takes options. It takes sleep. It takes courage. It takes your ability to say no. A person with no savings and heavy debt cannot calmly walk away from a bad boss. They cannot easily move for a better opportunity. They cannot take a small risk that might improve their life. They have to keep feeding the machine because the machine has first claim on their paycheck. Think about a woman named Angela. Angela bought furniture on a store credit plan because the advertisement said no interest if paid within 12 months. She put a vacation on a credit card because her family had been stressed and she wanted to make memories. She financed a phone because everyone does that now. None of these decisions felt like a disaster. But by the end of 2 years, her paycheck was no longer hers. Before she bought groceries, before she saved, before she invested, before she could breathe, pieces of her income were already promised to companies that did not care how tired she was. This is what poor people are not taught early enough. Debt can make you feel richer today while making you weaker tomorrow. And the most dangerous debt is not always the biggest debt. It is the debt that becomes normal. The car payment that never ends because every 5 years you roll into another one. The credit card balance that never goes away because the minimum payment makes it feel manageable. The buy now, pay later habit that turns small purchases into a swarm of little obligations. Buffett's style of thinking is brutally simple here. If you are paying high interest, compounding is working against you. And when compounding works against you, it is like trying to run uphill while someone keeps adding weight to your backpack. You may still move forward, but every step costs more energy than it should. The wealthy try to own the interest machine. The poor are often pushed into feeding it. That is the difference. A bank does not build skyscrapers because it hopes you become financially free. It builds them because millions of people pay interest quietly, month after month, without realizing they are funding someone else's wealth. The third money secret is that small spending is not small when it becomes a pattern. This is where many people get defensive because they hear this and think, "Oh, here we go. Someone is going to blame coffee for poverty." No, that is not the point. Buying coffee is not why most people are broke. Housing costs, medical costs, childcare, low wages, inflation, and emergencies are real. But it is also true that repeated behavior becomes destiny. Buffett has always had a deep respect for small numbers because he understands what small numbers become when they are repeated for decades. A dollar is not just a dollar. A dollar is a seed. And the question is whether you eat every seed or plant some of them. Poor people are often taught to think in survival windows. Can I get through this week? Can I make it to payday? Can I cover this bill? And when life is stressful, small purchases feel like the only affordable pleasure. A snack, a delivery order, an upgrade, a subscription, a little convenience, a little treat. And again, one of them is not the problem. The pattern is the problem. The wealthy do not become wealthy because they never enjoy life. They become wealthy because they understand the future value of repeated choices. Let's say someone spends an extra $18 a day without thinking. Maybe it is delivery fees, drinks, impulse buys, convenience charges, unused subscriptions, small online orders. $18 does not sound life-changing. But $18 a day is about $540 a month. That is $6,480 a year. Over 10 years, without even investing, that is $64,800. And if that money had been invested consistently over many years, the difference could be enormous. The lesson is not never spend. The lesson is notice what your habits are voting for. Every dollar is a tiny employee. You can send that employee away forever, or you can put it to work. Poor people are rarely taught to see dollars as employees. They are taught to see dollars as relief. And when you are tired, relief feels urgent. The wealthy are not immune to wanting comfort. They have just trained themselves to ask one more question before they spend. Is this purchase improving my life, or is it just soothing my mood? That question can save a person thousands, because emotional spending is not really about the item. It is about exhaustion, loneliness, boredom, anxiety, or the feeling that life is hard and you deserve something. And you probably do deserve comfort. But the financial system has learned how to monetize your exhaustion. It will sell you convenience when you are tired, status when you feel insecure, distraction when you are anxious, and upgrades when you feel behind. The fourth money secret is that time matters more than intelligence. This is the secret that almost sounds unfair. A young person who starts early with average knowledge can often beat an older person who starts later with better knowledge. That is how powerful compounding is. Buffett did not build his fortune only because he was smart. He built it because he stayed in the game for an extremely long time. Time was the silent partner in his wealth. Most poor people are not taught this. They are taught that investing is for rich people, or that they should wait until they have a lot of money, or that they should become experts first, or that the market is basically gambling. So they wait. They wait until they feel stable. They wait until they earn more. They wait until the news feels less scary. They wait until they understand everything. And waiting feels safe, but it is often very expensive. Imagine two friends, David and Chris. David starts investing $200 a month at age 25. Nothing fancy, just consistent, boring investing. Chris waits until 35 because he wants to get his life together first. At 35, Chris actually invests more, maybe $400 a month. He is more serious. He reads more. He talks more confidently. But David has something Chris cannot buy back easily. 10 extra years of compounding. The early dollars had more time to grow roots. This is why Buffett's philosophy can feel almost spiritual. The acorn does not become an oak tree because it is loud. It becomes an oak tree because it is planted and left alone. Poor people are often pushed into thinking that financial success requires a dramatic breakthrough, a big business, a perfect stock, a lucky opportunity. But for many ordinary people, the first breakthrough is simply starting, not perfectly, not dramatically, just starting, even if it is small, especially if it is small, because small amounts invested consistently do something powerful to your identity. They teach you that you are not only a consumer, you are an owner. You own a tiny piece of productive assets. You own a claim on future growth. You own a small machine that can work while you sleep. That feeling matters. It changes how you see yourself. And over time, that identity becomes more valuable than the amount you began with. The fifth money secret is that being poor is expensive because it steals your margin of safety. Buffett talks often about a margin of safety in investing, but the same concept applies to life. A margin of safety is the space between you and disaster. It is the cushion, the buffer, the extra room. And poor people are often forced to live with no margin at all. One unexpected car repair becomes a crisis. One dental bill becomes a credit card balance. One missed shift becomes rent panic. One family emergency destroys months of progress. This is not a character flaw. It is math. When every dollar has a job before it arrives, there is no defense system. And without a defense system, life becomes more expensive. You pay late fees. You pay overdraft fees. You borrow at worse rates. You take bad deals because you cannot wait for better ones. You accept lower wages because you cannot risk unemployment. You buy cheaper products that break sooner because the durable version costs more up front. Poverty charges interest in ways that do not always appear on a statement. This is why the first layer of wealth is not luxury. It is breathing room. Before wealth looks like freedom, it looks like having enough money to not panic when the tire goes flat. It looks like paying insurance on time. It looks like buying groceries without checking the account 3 times in the parking lot. It looks like being able to say, "No, I will not accept that terrible deal," because desperation is no longer making the decision for you. Wealthy people protect margin. Poor people are often never taught to build it because they are stuck reacting to fires. But the first mission is not to impress anyone. The first mission is to create distance between your life and the edge. That may mean a small emergency fund before aggressive investing. It may mean killing high-interest debt before chasing returns. It may mean keeping fixed expenses low even after income rises. It may mean refusing to upgrade your lifestyle just because your paycheck improved. This is boring advice, but boring advice is often what works. The world wants you excited, impatient, and insecure. It wants you to believe that wealth is a look, a brand, a car, a vacation, a watch, a kitchen, a lifestyle. Buffett's life teaches the opposite. Wealth is the ability to make decisions from strength instead of fear. It is the ability to let time work for you instead of against you. It is the ability to own assets instead of only owing payments. It is the ability to sleep because tomorrow's emergency will not automatically become tomorrow's disaster. And maybe the most important secret behind all 5 is this: money is not just numbers. Money is behavior repeated over time. The poor are often given financial advice that sounds like blame, so they reject it. And honestly, I understand why. Nobody wants to be told to budget by someone who has never felt the pressure of choosing which bill can be late. Nobody wants to hear about investing from someone who does not understand what it feels like to have $42 until Friday. But the answer is not to ignore the rules. The answer is to learn them without shame, because shame keeps people stuck. Shame makes you avoid your bank account. Shame makes you say, "I'm just bad with money," as if that is a permanent identity. It is not. Being bad with money is often just being untaught, overwhelmed, and surrounded by systems designed to extract from you. You can learn. You can change the pattern. You can start with $1, 1 bill, 1 habit, 1 account, 1 decision. You do not need to become Warren Buffett. You need to become someone who no longer lets every dollar escape without a plan. Start by separating income from wealth. When money comes in, do not ask only what it can buy. Ask what it can build. Then look at your debt honestly. Not with panic, not with self-hatred, but with clarity. Which debts are stealing the most future? Energy? Which ones have the highest interest? Which ones keep you afraid? Then examine your small spending without turning it into a moral drama. You are not a bad person because you bought something convenient, but you are responsible for seeing the pattern. After that, give time a job. Even a small automatic investment can become a statement. I am planting something. I am no longer only surviving today. I am giving my future self proof that I cared. And finally, build margin. Build breathing room before you build status. Build quiet stability before visible success. Build the kind of life where one bad Tuesday does not destroy your month. The poor are often never taught these secrets because these secrets make people harder to profit from. A person with savings is harder to scare. A person without high-interest debt is harder to drain. A person who invests automatically is harder to distract. A person who understands compounding is harder to tempt with quick schemes. A person with margin is harder to control. That is the real warning. A system does not need you to be foolish. It only needs you to be busy, tired, uninformed, and slightly behind. Because when you are always slightly behind, you pay more for everything. You pay with interest. You pay with fees. You pay with stress. You pay with missed opportunities. You pay with years of your life. But the moment you understand the rules, the game changes. Not overnight, not magically, but quietly. You start keeping a little more. You start owing a little less. You start investing a little earlier. You start spending with a little more awareness. You start building a little more room around your life. And one day, the same person who used to panic over every bill realizes something has shifted. The emergency is still annoying, but it is not fatal. The paycheck is still important, but it is not the only source of hope. The future still has uncertainty, but it no longer feels completely owned by someone else. That is what money is supposed to do. Not make you arrogant, not make you flashy, not make you better than anyone. Money is supposed to give you dignity, patience, choices, and peace. And the sooner you learn the secrets you are never taught, the sooner you can stop living as a worker for everyone else's money and start building a life where your money finally begins working for you.